But first, let me thank you so much, Vani and Vasu, for having me here. It's my absolute pleasure. And you'll notice that one of my passions is to actually share my experience with others. And this is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. And you were absolutely right, Vasu. It's not a theoretical thing. It's a lot of my own learning and whatever I sort of some transformations that, I went through during this journey. So I wanted to share that with you. I also wanted to dispel this, fear that we have of life-threatening diseases, in a sense, because you can see me now. I'm through the cancer thing. Of course, it's open to coming back anytime, but this is life. I mean, let's enjoy it while we are here. Let's enjoy it. Okay, so here we are. Uh, so this is my story, and I really want you to understand that you can get through anything in life if you have passion and if you have some amount of spiritual connect. Because the strength that you get from spirituality is totally amazing. And when I go through my presentation, you're going to realize what all it has done for me. And I'm eternally grateful for all the spiritual masters and teachers that have come in my life and in my journey, which have led me to this space where I am right now. So this is me, but this is me just after I finished all my treatments. And this must have been June last year. And I had just finished my radiation and chemotherapy. But here, look at me. This is me before the cancer on the left. That's me when I just recovered from the cancer and the treatments. And that's me now, enjoying life. Today, my sharing is going to be my life journey before cancer, my story, because a lot of people think that, you have to have some very deep sort of issue in your life or something like that to get cancer and all of those things. So I thought I would share my actual experience for you to understand what I've learned about cancer. Then I'm going to talk to you about my cancer diagnosis, my treatment protocols, and the side effects that I had through those 6 months, my caregivers and support groups that without whom I would not have been here today, surviving cancer. Then there comes the main part, which is how I survived cancer through my passions and my spiritual beliefs. I'm going to also talk to you about my life going forward after the cancer and just a little bit about how you can prevent cancer. So I've been to so many doctors and I've been here and there, been reading and, expanding my knowledge on this, meeting other cancer survivors and patients and all that. So I thought I would just share with you how you can prevent cancer if there is, so just be careful. I mean, it's a general thing. It also applies to other life-threatening diseases. So, I would just share that with you today. So here's my life journey before the cancer. So my family, I'm the youngest of 4 children and I'm thoroughly spoiled. I have to tell you that. In fact, when I started my life, I was just so used to be pampered and being looked after that I really was, when I went into the real world, I was a very underconfident person. And I had to learn a whole lot of life lessons to actually be able to handle life. So very pampered. I have two older brothers who are like my father, so I have 3 fathers in effect. And you can see them here. If you look at the picture on the right, you'll see me with the 2 braids. And behind me is my mother. And behind my mother is my brother, who is younger to the brother on the right. That is my older brother. And further to the right is my sister, older sister, who we lost when she was about 33. So that's my family situation. And I studied at some of the best institutions in Mumbai. I went to Xavier's College. I went to a wonderful school in Bandra. And then I went to Jamnalal Bajaj and I did my management there. And when I was 24, I got married. And I have a wonderful husband. Vani and Vasu have met him, and a lot of you have possibly met him as well. I started a family when I was 25 years, and I have 2 boys. Now I have 2 daughters-in-law, and I have 3 grandchildren, and it's wonderful. They are very, very supportive. of everything that I do and everything that I went through. Moved to Bangalore in 1991, so I am truly a Bangalorean now. Very little left of Bombay in me. And my career, let me talk a little bit about my career, which I think Vasu mentioned a little bit. But I started a fashion business with my husband when I was 25. We closed the business at 37 years because even though the business was expanding, doing really well, but we didn't have financial resources to be able to finance that growth. And banks were very reluctant to give us funds for brand and retail. I think it was a nascent industry, and they were very, very averse to giving loans at that point in time. And so we were forced to close the business when I was 37. And I then moved on to a corporate career slightly before that at 36. And then I continued with a very successful corporate career. I was heading the Pantaloon chain, and Vani mentioned that. I was heading the Pantaloon chain for several years. After I finished my stint with Future Group, I worked as a consultant in the fashion industry for about 9 years. And then I moved to becoming a happiness mentor from 2016 onwards. And then, of course, COVID came and all of that happened. So it kind of slowed down a bit. Then, of course, later I got the cancer. And so I slowed down everything. I've worked closely with the School of Ancient Wisdom for several years. And I'm still the chief faculty at Ritambara Wellness, in case some of you are part of that group as well. And now I'm assisting a new happiness platform called happinessquad.com, which originates from the States. And there's a very young, wonderful man called Ashish Kothari, who's written a book on mastering happiness. And he runs this Happiness Squad. So it is a platform that you can join. Presently, I'm writing articles, giving talks on happiness, wellness, and surviving cancer. So generally, if you look at all of this, I've lived a reasonably comfortable life. Of course, I've had my share of ups and downs, and the ups and downs came because I was much younger and much more immature, and I wasn't able to handle them. So, but generally, a comfortable life. So let's get to my cancer diagnosis. I went for a checkup on the 4th of October, 2021. And that was, I avoided I usually go for a health checkup every year. And I didn't go during the time of the COVID. That means in 19 and 20, I didn't go for a checkup because the reason being I didn't want to open myself to any kind of infections from the hospitals. So we sort of put it off, my husband and I, and we went on the 4th of October. And then I became aware of a lump through the mammogram and sonomammogram, which I had on the 10th of November. There was a little delay in the reports and all of that. So 10th November, I got that report. And then I was advised to do a biopsy on the 5th, which I had done on the 15th. So I did everything very quickly after that. I got the results on the 19th, and then I went to the surgeon, the onco-surgeon, a wonderful man at the Manipal Hospital. And he said that, I don't know, destiny has its own role to play. And he said, he's normally an extremely very busy surgeon, and he takes a couple of months to give appointments. So it was very surprising. He said, I can operate on you in the next 2-3 days. And I said, okay, let's just do it, So 22nd November, I was operated. I started chemo on the 9th of December because what happened during my operation was that they discovered that the cancer had gone into one of my lymph nodes. And if it goes into any of your lymph nodes, that means there's a possibility of it becoming systemic. So that means it's gone possibly into your system. And then chemo is 100% is part of the treatment protocol. So then after that, and ended that after a month. So it takes about 20 sittings, but they don't do it on weekends. They give your body a break. So I did it on the 2nd, finished on the 2nd of June. And now I'm on a 6-monthly checkup routine. So a little bit about the treatment protocol and side effects. I would like you to know a little bit about how this works. because I want to get that fear out of everybody that, you can go through all of this. I mean, it's not the end of the world. So you can go through all of this and you can come out smiling at the end of it. So the treatment protocol usually and did I mention that I had a lump in my breast, in my left breast, and that was the breast cancer. So for breast cancer, the treatment is surgery, radiation, then chemotherapy, and then after that, you also can do other, wellness kind of techniques like massage, yoga, acupuncture, and talk therapy. So um, I was advised to do chemotherapy and radiation. And it says adjuvant chemotherapy because that's chemotherapy that's done after the surgery. They also do chemotherapy before the surgery to try and um, shrink the lump. But mine was such a tiny lump; it was unbelievably small. But they detected it, and I'm grateful for that. But it was small enough for it to actually somehow spread into my lymph nodes. So I did the chemotherapy, and that's me in the hospital getting the chemotherapy done. And that was when I went in for my surgery on the left, and the other two are when I was in for my chemotherapy. I did have trouble during my chemotherapy because the dosage that was given to me was was a normal dose, but I found that my body couldn't handle it. I was 68 years old at that time, and my body couldn't handle it, and my blood count went so low that I had to be hospitalized twice. But the doctors were very confident of looking after me well, so I was pretty okay. I went through that. And then the next set of doses that I was supposed to do were actually reduced. And so the doses were reduced, and I was taking it, instead of taking it every alternate week, I was taking one-third dose every week. So that had, they had brought it down to in tune with my body. And please remember, you can do something like that. You have to talk to your oncologist, and you can work out all of these things. It's not like written in stone that this is the dosage and this is the way you have to have it. You can work out all these things, which I learned later. Okay, and it worked for me. So surgery, I told you, included lumpectomy, but it took 5 hours because the doctor said, do you want to do breast reconstruction at the same time? And I said, yes, please go ahead and do it. But they did realize that it had gone into my lymph nodes, so many of the lymphs had to be removed from my body. So that's why it took 5 hours. But I was discharged very fast in 2 days, and then I was recovering at home with an attendant. The side effects of the surgery were, like I said, now I'm actually prone to lymphedema, which means, I don't know if you've seen maybe some people with an arm, they wear a glove, they wear a sleeve on their arm to keep the lymph, is the liquid that collects in your arm because you don't have lymph nodes to drain it. Now, so because I don't have that, I have to be very careful with my left arm. And that's something that I have to live with for the rest of my life. But I do exercises and I do things, and I have hardly worn that sleeve at all. So lymphedema is something that I'm subject to. And I was at that time getting shooting pain in the breast. And that's caused by the new growth of tissue and healing. So while there is pain, there is also something very positive about it. And there was a numbness in my armpit where the nerves were cut. And this actually surprisingly lasted for 1.5 years. And recently I've started doing Tai Chi. I used to do Qigong, which is the exercises based on Tai Chi, but now I'm doing the Tai Chi form, which is different. I've started doing the Tai Chi form, and it's really surprising that I'm getting my feeling back, and that numbness in the arm is slowly disappearing. So, things can happen. If you're positive about it, lots of things can happen. And of course, there was a stiffness, tightness in left shoulder, which is completely gone. My left arm feels as well as my right one. So the chemotherapy, I already explained to you, I was supposed to take. This is a regular treatment for breast cancer. And I was supposed to take this, but I did the second set of doses, I staggered them to 12 sessions instead of doing them in 4 sessions. because my body couldn't take it. And then there was the usual chemotherapy side effects. There was loss of hair. So I got my daughter-in-law to shave my head off completely. And then I ordered some turbans, which you can get on Amazon. And I was happily wearing those turbans to match my clothes. And it started to look like a fashion statement, by the way. You get, when you actually have chemotherapy, you get insomnia on 2 days after chemo. And that is expected. You get body ache and fever on third, fourth, fifth day. There's a lack of appetite. There's a loss of taste. There's loss of energy. You get constipated and you have pain in some parts of the body. So I got it in my gums. Discoloration of nails, which my nails are back to normal. Tingling sensation in hands and feet. All of these things happened. But, it's happened at that time. And I've forgotten everything. I really, if you ask me details of the suffering at that point, I can't even remember it. So, there is something after. I had radiation again at Manipal Hospital. By the way, I did my chemotherapy at Site Care, and I did the radiation at Manipal. And I did 20 sessions with my doctor there, Dr. Vadi Raju. You can see I've put an arrow there to show gentlest of human beings. And I was really happy to say that I was particular that my doctors should be empathetic and they should be very sort of soft and not be in a rush. And they should explain to me what's happening to my body with whatever treatment they were giving. And both of the doctors that I have, my oncologist, Dr. Prasad Narayan, and my doctor here for the radiation, both of them did everything possible to satisfy my questions and satisfy everything. And please don't feel scared of doing that. It is your right to actually know what's happening to your body. So if anything happens to you, forget cancer, if it's anything, let's say you've got diabetes or you've got anything, any questions that you have, please feel free to ask your doctor. So I had these sessions, and the effects of that were that there was a complete discoloration of the breast and surrounding area because you're, pounding so much radiation at it, but everything sort of gets back to normal. It's still slightly discolored, but that's perfectly okay. It's something that I can live with very comfortably. And at the time that radiation was happening, I got a sore throat and difficulty swallowing. And I immediately told that to my doctor. And he said, it's going to happen because the radiation goes right up to there. So, it was going to happen. So I was asking the doctor any kind of questions that I had. I was constantly asking them. And I had no other internal side effects in the rest of the body during the radiation. And it's just a matter of you're there for maybe in 5 minutes, I used to get into the room and change my clothes, have the radiation, and I would be out in 5 minutes. So it's as simple as that. This is the very important part I'm coming to now, my caregivers and support groups. I had a huge amount of support. So here on the left, you can see my family, and they stood by me through everything. My sons came with me to every doctor when I was starting the treatment. My husband was with me through every chemotherapy session, and my sons were there with me for every consultation to know exactly what was happening with their mother. And my daughters-in-law, of course, my grandkids were smaller at that time, so they were involved with managing the house. But all the three men in the family came to the hospital, did whatever they could possibly do for me. So I was very grateful, and the two girls managed the home. So that was great. And here's my niece. And I was really fortunate to have my niece, Dr. Sonia Malani. She's my brother's daughter. And my brother actually suffered from stomach cancer. And he's a doctor himself, but he suffered from stomach cancer. And his wife suffered from breast cancer. So Dr. Sonia is specialized in cancer and alternate therapies and medicine. And she was my go-to for everything. If I had anything, any questions, anything, she would immediately, she lives in the US, but she was actually answering all my questions and giving me that information. And she told me about lowering the dosage for my chemotherapy. And that was a great learning for me, because then I was able to handle that chemo extremely well. and I was practically back to normal, during those chemo days. It wasn't bad at all for me. And here's my brother. I told you my brother is like my father, and he still continues to be. He is very protective. And my sister-in-law we lost last year, but my brother is there for me, and he and she used to call me every single day to find out how I was and chat with me. And so they were a real pillar of support. I lost my other brother to cancer much earlier. Otherwise, he would have also been on the phone every single day. I'm pretty sure of that. And here are my two lovely girls at home who looked after me really well. One is Meena and the other one is Sita. They were with me at that time, and they were with me, have been with me for some time now. And they also looked after me, did everything to make me comfortable. So my caregivers were tremendously important during this time. And please feel free to lean on them if you have the need to do it, because they are happy to do it for you. My other support groups were my extended relatives, friends, my school, college, and post-graduation groups, my satsang groups, my very caring doctors and nurses, and my mentors and guides on my spiritual journey. And I have, a couple of spiritual teachers. They won't call themselves gurus or masters. A couple of teachers who I could question on, if I had any sort of spiritual question during that time, then they were there for me. I also actually, WhatsApp was another big savior, because I put, we started a group called Bina's Recovery, and everybody that was, on the group got first-hand sort of information on the process and what I was doing every day, how I was feeling and everything. So I was, it was much easier to actually communicate with them than to call each one's, or talk to each one separately. So that's a great thing to do. Now I want to come, this is really the most important part of my presentation, and I really want to talk to you about my passions and and the spiritual beliefs that I had. So let's go through my passions first. I'm actually passionate about many things, and that really is a drawback because I'm really good at many things, but master of none. So spiritual knowledge and learning, that has been something that has been with me since I was 40 years old. And I continue to do that, because every time you read the same book over again, you have a new level of understanding. It's really called a spiral of understanding for a particular reason, because you're always at a different level. So really, a spiritual knowledge and learning, I continued. There were Bhagavadgita classes, and I used to do them. You can see me on the right at the bottom with my laptop. And it was during the COVID time, so I was doing my learning at that time. I love apparel, fashion, and styling, and that has really been my passion. And so I was, I said, now while I was actually recovering from cancer, I bought a whole lot of scarves, and I bought turbans, and, I used to wear clothes, and I used to wear the scarves, tie it around my head, and do all kinds of things. And I was really, in a sense, I was indulging in my passion, even during the time that I was not feeling well. On days that I was feeling good, even when I didn't, when I was going through the chemo, I used to make it a point to go out. I'd wear my mask religiously. I wouldn't eat or drink outside because I didn't want to lower my mask. My immunity was low. So you can understand that you have to be extremely careful. But I used to go out. I did a bit of shopping. I did this. I did whatever I needed to. And I was enjoying myself. My Instagram handle, by the way, is Bina Mirchandani, and I continue to post various looks and, information on style even now. As a kid, I used to love drawing and painting. So I decided that, and just before during the COVID time, I decided that let me start doing that again. And now I am actually going to be, so I have a teacher also who, brushes up my techniques for me. And the subjects are all chosen by me. But then he, helps me through it and says, this is how you should do this, and that's how you should do it. Very famous. He's Dodamani, and he's a famous painter himself. And I go to classes once a week. And I am now actually indulging in that particular passion of mine so much that I'm going to be having an art exhibition in the month of March 2024. So I'm now preparing for that. Uh, I love learning. You will see me at the BIC, or any talks that happen on any subject is of interest to me. So I go to the BIC regularly because they have wonderful talks. And by the way, any of you who are interested, please, you can go there. It's absolutely free. And they have absolutely wonderful speakers from all over the world that come and speak there, book launches, anything, you name it, and they have it. So it's really a great place for art, learning, and culture. And so general learning is very important for me. I constantly have an urge to learn something. So I'm constantly learning. I told you I've just joined Tai Chi classes, and I'm learning the form. And we do that twice a week. But it's wonderful. I practice it every day. And it's not only helped me, with this thing, but as you get older, you start to lose your balance. And I'm suddenly finding that by doing Tai Chi, I'm getting my balance back. I'm able to stand on one leg and do all kinds of things which I wasn't able to do earlier. So it's really actually wonderful. And once I master the form, the Tai Chi form, then they're going to teach me the breathing, which is going to be even better, because then, you're going to open up all the nodes in your body, and, the chi, the energy that they call in the translation of chi is energy. So the prana will then flow through the body. So that's a wonderful thing to do, by the way. In case you would like to, you can get in touch with me, and I can, share with you how you can do it. Sports, I love sports. So I play golf. I love to watch everything. Now I'm glued to the TV. I'm watching Wimbledon all the time. And so I have actually, here's the problem with me. I have too many interests. In fact, I find life so interesting that I really, everything that I do, or everything that I to me. So travel, I love good food. I love the way it's spread out. So then I take an interest in the food at home, and we try out new recipes, all kinds of things for our regular lunches and dinners and everything. And then there's my last passion, which I think that since I'm 68 years old, if there's anything that anybody can learn, through my experience, I'm really, really happy to share that knowledge. So if you have anybody, and in fact, a lot of people who've suffered from cancer have approached me directly. Please feel free to share my number with them or my contact details, and they can call me up, and I'll be happy to talk to them. So here's me indulging in all my passions. And that's a great thing to do, because, when you're passionate about something, you're constantly learning, you're doing something. And, there's that interest in life and living, which won't come otherwise. If you do the same routine thing every single day, then what is that thing that's going to charge you up and keep you going? So please just incorporate some kind of learning in your life. Surviving cancer through spirituality, and that's the big one. This is really the one that helped me most. I hope we have time, Vasu. I guess
Yes,
we do.
Bina. Yes, Bina. We have quite a lot of time. We can go on till 7:50. 50.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, great. So then I will talk a little bit in detail about my spiritual beliefs that helped me in my recovery. So the first and foremost one was understanding the connect between body and spirit. So when I first got cancer, a friend called me and said, Bina, how are you? And in a very, very sad voice, because they thought that, I'll be completely depressed, and I'll be this, and I'll be in a bad shape and all that. And my answer was, I'm fine. And when I said I'm fine, I realized that suddenly that, there is something in me that is very positive, and that is very sort of, is willing to take on anything. And I realized that there is a spirit, and there is your body, which actually can be overridden by your spirit. So that was the first time that I actually felt this split between body and spirit, and how the spirit could actually manage the body. So that was an interesting learning for me. And then I said, I have to keep my spirit up constantly. Let's talk about the law of evolution. So there's a biological aspect and there is a spiritual aspect. I'm going to talk to you about the spiritual aspect first, and then I'm going to go into the biological, because I really want you to understand the evolution of a cancer cell as well. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So spiritually, of course, the fact that I got cancer was really meant for a reason, for a purpose, and it was meant for me to start to reflect on life and to understand what was happening to me. So incidentally, while I was lying in bed on many days during my chemotherapy, where you really don't have much energy and you're not feeling that good, it gave me a lot of time to reflect on what I had done in my life, and what, how do I take it forward? What do I do? So I was really thinking about life a lot. And those thoughts, actually, when then I discussed some with my spiritual teachers, and I was, talking about all of that and wondering, whether it's karmic, not karmic, what is it? What is it related to, my lifestyle? Is it related to my diet? What's the reason for my getting the cancer as well? And then, a lot of things fell into place. And I realized that, there is some sort of evolution. And of course, the things that happened to me forced me to develop so many other qualities, like, patience, like, not getting myself down, not letting myself fall into a situation from which I can't get back up again. Lots of things happened to me spiritually, and so there was definitely an evolution for me then. Now, biologically, let me just, bring to you this huge discussion that I had. And also, I've been reading a book called The Cancer Code. And this book is all about uh, the cancer cells and how they originate, and all of the thing about cancer. So I want to read out a little bit to you, and then I want to put the cancer cell into perspective in the universe. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about cancer. So this, he says, cancer, the cancer cell is actually a breakdown of multicellular cooperation. So, if you imagine that, your liver is consisting of multi cells, and any of those cells can be cancerous, by the way. Cancerous transformation happens when a cell in a well functioning society acts like a single cell organism. So now, suddenly, instead of being a multicellular cell, which is this thing, one of your cells will break away, and then it starts to become cancerous, right? So as it stops following the rules, the cancer will prioritize only its survival. So now, when you understand that there are so many mutations of cancer, you can understand that all that cancer cell is trying to do is to survive. Like you are. You're also trying to survive. So is the cancer cell trying to survive. And further, this reversion towards unicellularity has devastating results for the organism, because all multicellular life evolved from unicellular organisms. All multicellular life contains the basic pathways needed for cancer. The seeds of cancer are therefore contained within every cell of every multicellular animal. The origins of cancer lie in the origins of multicellular life on Earth. But how did that cell, originally part of the multicellular community, change its behavior to that of a single cell organism? Only one force in the biological universe has that power. And what do you think that is? That power is evolution. So now I want to tell you that, we talk of ourselves, we are just microcosm in the whole, macrocosm of the universe. We are one small speck on Earth. Earth is a small speck in the universe. And, we are so concerned about our own survival and about this thing. But there are so many other organisms in all of this, in on the earth, in the universe, in the bigger universe. All of these things are evolving, and they're going forward in a way where they don't want to die out. So what is important about cancer cells? Okay, so why does a cancer cell, look at this, the cancer cell versus the human being. Okay, so what is the cancer cell looking for when it breaks away from the multicellular form? One is freedom, one is survival, one is growth. It wants to multiply itself, and the last thing it wants is immortality. And that's actually also been told by the author of this book, The Cancer Code, by Dr. Jason Fung. He talks about the fact that these cells want to stay immortal. We want the same thing. We want exactly the same thing. We are a different form, and the cancer cell is just a different form. But we are all living forms. So if you can look at cancer in a completely different perspective, you realize that you are also part of that whole process in which organisms are also evolving. So that really is, it's an important thing to understand, and to understand how small one person is in this whole huge and beautiful uh, framework of the universe. Let's talk about law of rebirth and reincarnation, and that brings death into the issue. A lot of us fear death. And so again, because of my spiritual beliefs, I believe that there is really no death, and everything. And if you're all of you here, I'm pretty sure also believe that there is it's a continuum, and there is no such thing as a death. The death is only of the physical and of nothing else. So, if we actually get that into perspective, then we can understand that fine. So if I go at the age of whatever age, whatever age the cancer strikes me, or whatever happens, there is some perspective to the whole thing. And it's not as if whatever I've learned in this lifetime, or my swabhava, or whatever I've gathered, whatever knowledge I've gathered, whatever impressions I've gathered from this life are carried with me to the next. So I've really lost nothing. All I've done is really change that body into something else. And that's it. We used to go to the School of Ancient Wisdom, and Ma Manize used to be there. And Ma Manize used to say that you people are all here for a reason. And the reason being that all souls actually stick together. And if souls actually stick together, she said that, we've been together in many lifetimes, and that's the reason why you're here. So, my husband, just by chance, he was looking for land, and he went into the School of Ancient Wisdom on the IVH Road, and just landed over there. And what brought him there? What brought him to Ma Manize? And then I stepped in, and we were already into some spiritual reading and learning, and this was just a natural progression for us. So really, there is something to say about the fact that, so what I'm trying to say is that you won't even lose your relationships. If you have deep relationships with some soul in this lifetime, it's going to continue in some form. So what are you actually losing? By dying in this lifetime, you're losing nothing. So this law of rebirth and reincarnation, by the way, my first exposure to this, and a wonderful book, has been written by Vani's mother. And I read that several times. So thank you, Vani. Your mother was very, very instrumental in in setting up my spiritual beliefs. So death is what I'm talking about, and I'm saying that really, what is there to fear in death? You're not going to lose anything. So please remember that. And that's something I live by, and it really works for me, because now nothing bothers me. Really, nothing bothers me. The law of karma: what you sow, you reap. So why did I get the cancer? So first I started off thinking, why did I get the cancer? Why me? I'm pretty active. I do so many things and I'm a very positive, happy person. Why did I get the cancer? And then I again spoke to my spiritual, one of my uh, teachers. So I keep calling them teachers. So I spoke to one of my teachers, and he said that, these things are also karmic. There's, when you're ready to receive some sort of karma, it comes to you because somehow the karmic gods know that you might be able to handle it, or it might help in your transformation. So in any case, it's for your betterment. So, with that perspective, I find that, even this cancer came to me, and I questioned this when I realized what it could be related to and why it could have come to me. I decided to completely accept it. And once I accepted it, there's really no looking back, there's no regret. There's nothing. It's just the way forward. That's it. The law of attraction. So the energy you put out into the universe always comes back to you. This was another thing. So every time, if I was positive, then my body was also responding positively. Everything that I threw out into the universe came right back to me. So of course, this law of attraction is also based on karma. What you've done is going to come back to you. So whatever energy you put out is also going to come back to you. So just be a happy person through everything, and you will find your recovery is much easier. The kind of people that surround you through your recovery are also then happy people. They are positive people. You attract those kind of people around you. So just be positive yourself and just see how positivity completely surrounds you. There's the natural law of the universe and going with the flow. And this is where I talk to you about the acceptance. I accept death. I accept the cancer thing that came to me. And I think that it's all for my evolution. And so I'm quite actually, I've come completely to terms with the fact that it had to happen to me. So it's going with the flow. And if you fight anything, and if you keep saying, why did I get the cancer? And you just go on delving into that, there's no way you're going to get out of it. You're just going to stay locked in to a negative mindset. And you're going to, so it's just not going to help you at all. So going with the flow was very, very important for me. The acceptance. Living in the present moment. Now, every time that I did my chemo, I told you I was suffering for the next few days. But on the days that the chemo, I was feeling better, I just lived in that moment and I enjoyed myself. I did whatever I needed to. I went out if I wanted to go out. I did whatever. So I was trying to live in the present moment constantly. And that really helped me. The other thing I have to tell you is that, we are so conditioned with the fact that you sleep at this time, you get up at this time, you do this, you do that, this is the way you have to live your life, and this is what you should do. But when I was actually having my chemo, I said, to hell with my conditioning. I'm going to do anything that I needed to do. So that on the days that I was suffering from insomnia, I was watching my favorite serials on TV in the middle of the night, maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It didn't matter to me. And then I was sleeping during the day. But, I was just sort of, like I said, I was just going with the flow. I was living in that moment and I was just enjoying, whatever I was able to do. So sometimes, these conditionings that we have, and I'm very heavily conditioned by my parents. My mother was a stickler for convention and for, what time everything had to be done and how it had to be done and all of that. And so I broke away from that. And I must say now, I'm a really much happier and a much freer person than I used to be before my cancer. So just think about that. Living with my true nature, my inherent qualities, talents, and inclinations, your swabhava versus your swadharma. So now, literally, I told you about my passions. I told you about my true nature. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about nature here, because, my true nature, all through my growing up days, and because I was a girl, my mother always said, you have to look after your children, you look after your husband, you put their needs first, you do this, you do that. And it was a constant thing, it was, and this is not just my mother, it's everybody's mother would do that to any girl, and she would bring you up with all of those things. Now I'm actually living by my nature. I do not compromise that much. I used to just compromise. And I realized that maybe there was, in that whole compromising, I was losing something of myself, and I had possibly suppressed something in me which I really shouldn't have. Maybe that led to some kind of imbalance in my thing, and maybe some negative chemicals came into my body as a result of that. So now I actually live with my true nature, and my family is completely okay with that. I was making all those sacrifices for no rhyme or reason. So now I live with my true nature, and I would also recommend that you do the same. I live with I told you, I indulge in all my talents and my inclinations, my qualities, everything. I'm actually as true to my being as I could possibly be after the cancer. And that's something that I learned during the cancer journey. Living with empathy and compassion. Now, after the cancer, of course, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for people that are suffering. I'm happy to, help them through any kind of journey that they would like to go through. It has increased the empathy I have and the compassion. And also COVID really helped, because I realized how I was just thinking about the common person and people that came to my house, to work. How were they managing themselves, on that salary? Some people actually, cut off their salaries and said, you're not coming to work, so, we're not going to pay you. And a lot of things happened during that time and during my cancer days, that I actually, the empathy and compassion has increased. And I think that it's very important to do that, because, if you have enough, feel free to just give it to them, because the poor things, how do they manage themselves, so whatever they take from you or whatever. I used to be very petty minded, and I used to be concerned about, oh, maybe this, this one is taking this from my house, this maid has carried this away, or this maid has carried that away, or done this and done that. And I was only making myself upset for no rhyme or reason. But the fact of the matter is, they probably needed it more than I did. And I'm now living with that kind of thought process, which is really also brought me a lot of more contentment. I'm not agitated about these things anymore. So, living with empathy and compassion, especially for the people that don't have enough, is a great thing to, have. And I've rid myself of the past, negative baggage and wrong beliefs. I've done a lot of that during the cancer thing. I also, when I ridding myself of the past, anything that I did in the past, if I, said something and that's rankling in my mind, I've actually gone and asked for their forgiveness now. If there were some things lying with me, which, I discovered now when I clean my house or do anything, I have actually returned it to the rightful owner, and I've done all of that. So I'm trying every day to keep my slate as clean as I possibly can, so that if anything happens, I don't have anything to give or take with anybody, and my slate is as clean as I can possibly make it. This is, of course, in my conscious situation, but there could be in my unconscious thing, I could have done something to somebody and I don't recollect it. So whatever I can consciously do, I'm doing that. But the most important thing is living with gratitude. I'm so grateful for my life, for every day that I live without the cancer, or through that whole thing. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for the learnings I got, my life companions, my friends, my relatives, my extended friend circle, extended family circle, and for my evolutionary journey. So I'll be eternally grateful. And to me, this cancer has been something, has transformed me. I have to say that. And I'm even grateful for that cancer coming into my life. My life going forward. So just to actually get back to the disease, I do regular arm exercise for the arms. I actually try and do a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. I love yogurt, but I do a dairy-free, gluten-free, processed, sugar-free. I don't eat uh, desserts as far as possible, and I try to eat more a plant-based diet. And special foods and drinks for increasing immunity and lowering acidity. There are a few. If you'd like to know, I will be happy to share them. I do intermittent fasting, 13 hours every day. So I make sure, and that's a very good one, because then your body tries to recover itself. You're not constantly forcing food in, so that, the body is busy trying to just digest that food. Instead, now the body has 13 hours at least to do some kind of self recovery. So I eat by 7:30 latest, and in the morning my first meal is after 9 o'clock. So that 13 hours I do every day. Some people do 16. I think that's even more helpful, but I do 13. I don't think I can do more. And the use of cruelty-free, organic, chemical-free products for body, skin, hair, and makeup. Very recently, I was just by itself, it came on while I was listening to YouTube. Sadhguru's, YouTube came on, and he said that, we wear polyester clothing and we make children wear polyester clothing, which is really, really bad for them. We should stick to as much natural stuff as possible. So I use a lot of chemical-free products now for skin. I make sure they're organic and they're chemical-free. For my skin, for hair, makeup, all of that, I'm using all non-toxic stuff. I go for my regular cancer and health checkups. So mind, I told you, if I indulge in my passions, I'm avoiding any kind of stress-related activities. I don't do anything that brings stress on me. I share activities instead of overseeing everything. I used to be a perfectionist and I wanted everything perfect. I have let that go. So I'm just living with life as it is. Prioritize what is important and dropping what is not. And I'm not chasing perfection anymore. Working on, for me, even if a pillow out of place in my house used to rankle. And, these were, I realize now that there's so much more important things to do in life than to worry about how my home looks. So now I've just completely dropped that. I'm not chasing perfection. It is what it is. It is still very, very clean and reasonable. So don't think I live in a pigsty, but, it doesn't bother me if something is out of place and put back later or anything like that. So I'm not chasing perfection anymore. I work on increasing my traveling and need for change of environment. So we both like to travel, my husband and I, and we do a lot of driving holidays and we go out a lot. So there's constantly something new to discover, something very nice. So that's interesting. And I meet friends a lot, family more frequently, and I stay more connected than before. So on the phone, I talk to people more often. I make an effort to do that. And, so I'm just staying connected with people constantly. And spirit is, of course, continuing with my learning less sessions and reading of spiritual books. I continue to do that. And there's always, always something to learn and a new way to look at it. Even when you read the same books, you'll find something else that you actually missed out. More importantly, staying happy. So now just a little bit about the disease itself. Can you prevent cancer? I asked the doctors and the doctors said that, and with an aging body, there is possibility of getting cancer. I told you I was physically active till I got married. And so now in breast cancer, they say that 24% is genetic and 76% is based on environment. And what is the environment? It's your diet, lifestyle, and environment. So please just take care of these three things. Please be careful about your diet. Eat healthier food stuff, organic if you can. Be careful about your lifestyle. If you're constantly partying and not sleeping correctly, not doing this, not giving your body enough rest, obviously things are going to happen to you. And environment, please, stay in as clean environments as you possibly can. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything you can do. But it's pretty obvious that, 76% of the cases of breast cancer happen because of this. So, one can be careful. I told you I've stopped my small-minded thinking. I've stopped my need for control, perfection. And I did have a financial security thing that I grew up with. I've dropped that. Whatever I have, that's it. And, I've just got to enjoy myself, and that's it. And I stopped overthinking anything. Can you prevent cancer? If you have a family history, must please consult a doctor and do the required checkups regularity. Please eat much more alkaline foods versus acidic. So keep your body as alkaline as you can with food and drink. And there's so much information available online that you can Google anything and you'll know whether what you're eating is alkaline or acidic. Exercise is very important. Whatever age you are, I think you have to exercise. It's very, very important to stay healthy. Diet control, please watch your weight and, watch your diet and weight at all times. And if you have food allergies, please avoid, if you get discomfort from food, if you get acidity, or you get gas, or you feel uncomfortable after eating certain foods, observe your body, see what you're eating, and see the reaction you have to them. Start to become sensitive to your body. If you can avoid food allergies, your body won't have to work that much harder. In fact, I had an allergy test done after cancer just to make sure that I don't actually feed my body with wrong foods, so that, there is not that extra effort that my body has to make on digesting the food. Foods to avoid, I've already told you about. White sugar is actually cancer feeds on glucose. So sugar is a complete no-no if you've had cancer. Processed and refined foods and animal-based foods. Personal body products, I told you, please go to as much non-toxic and organic and chemical-free. Clothing and house linen, also another doctor told me, try and use cotton, silk, linen. Please don't use polyester sheets or polyester towels and things like that. Intermittent fasting, I told you about. It's a great tool for healthy living and weight control. And body, mind, and spirit, very simple. Watch your diet, exercise, stay toxin, chemical free as possible. Let go of the past. If you can do that, that will be great. Indulge in your hobbies and passions that make you happy. Mentally be prepared for ups and downs. That is life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And spirit, try to live in the moment, but always remember this too shall pass, which is exactly what happened for me. Stay happy. And thank you so much. I'd just like to close with this prayer, and then we can take your questions. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchid dukha bhag bhave. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. May everybody be happy. May everybody be free from disease. May everybody have good luck. May none fall on evil days. Thank you so much.